Why do so many bright kids end up feeling stuck, out of place, and totally alone as they grow up? These are the kids who were supposed to be ahead of the game. They were complimented, rewarded, and told they had a bright future. But somewhere along the line, all that encouragement started to feel more like pressure. What once felt like recognition started to feel like a cage. And now, a lot of those same kids who used to shine, are struggling as adults. They can't seem to find the drive. They feel behind socially. They have trouble starting things, following through, or really connecting with anyone. And the worst part? They don't even know why. Everything seems fine on the outside. They're still smart, still capable. But deep down, there's this constant feeling of being alone, like life is moving forward without them, and they're just watching from the sidelines. There's a reason this happens. A lot of smart kids end up tying their entire identity to being the smart one. And when that happens, the very thing that once made them feel proud and different becomes the thing that boxes them in later on. So what's really going on? And more importantly, how do you break free from it? Because this isn't about failing. It's about a coping strategy that worked for a while, but just doesn't hold up anymore. Once you get where it came from, you can start finding your way out. When we're little, we usually define ourselves in simple terms. Kids pick a trait or two and use that to shape who they think they are. Maybe it's, I like dinosaurs, or I only eat fries. It's all pretty basic, and that's totally normal. That's how a sense of identity begins, through interests or labels. One of the most powerful labels a kid can get is, you're smart. That label sticks. It's repeated by teachers, parents, even other kids. Before long, it becomes a major part of how you see yourself. And honestly, it feels great at first. Being smart means praise, attention, and usually things feel kind of easy. You don't have to work as hard. You get things fast. You stand out. But here's the catch. When people praise you for being smart, they're usually not praising effort. They're celebrating how easy things seem for you. You get complimented when you figure something out fast, when you ace a test without studying, when you understand stuff right away. So you start to believe something that seems harmless, but is actually pretty damaging. If I'm really smart, things should come easy to me. And that belief quietly starts to mess things up as you get older. Because the minute something doesn't come easy, when it's confusing or tough or you fail, it doesn't just feel challenging. It feels like a threat to your whole identity. You start thinking, if I'm smart, why can't I do this? So instead of pushing through, you pull back. You stop raising your hand unless you're sure. You avoid games unless you know you'll win. You don't chase things you might love, because what if they show you're not as smart as everyone thought? And slowly, your world shrinks. You stick with what you know. You avoid risks. You'd rather protect that smart kid image than try new things. And that's the trap. While everyone else is out exploring, failing, learning, and growing, you're staying in your safe zone. And the longer you stay there, the harder it is to break out. Eventually, you realize your whole sense of self is built on something that now feels fragile. You feel like you can't mess up, can't look dumb, can't risk anything. So you freeze. And that's when the loneliness creeps in. Because when you stop growing, you start to drift away from others too. Think about it. Real connection comes from doing things together, being on a team, going through weird phases, working hard toward a goal. But if you back out of those situations, if you take yourself out of where bonding happens, you miss the stuff that builds friendships. You skip the club because you're scared you'll suck at it. You pass on the sport because it's all new to you. You avoid group projects because they feel chaotic. And without realizing it, you're stepping out of the social stream. But you still want connection, right? So what do? You go back to what you know. You try to analyze people instead of really engaging with them. You lean on your brain instead of your heart. You observe, analyze, and run endless scenarios in your head. That's how you develop something called cognitive empathy. You can understand what people feel on a logical level, but you don't really feel it with them. And that can work for a while. You can hold conversations, blend in socially, maybe even come off as charming. But under the surface, you're drained. Instead of just being around people, you're constantly calculating, what should I say next? How will they react? What are they really thinking? So now, even social interaction becomes something you feel like you need to be good at. And to avoid failing at it, you start avoiding it altogether. That's when the loneliness digs in deeper. But hey, you're smart, right? You should be able to figure this out. So you apply logic to emotional problems. You try to fix low self-esteem by making lists and talking yourself into feeling okay. You overthink your own behavior, looking for a solution like it's a puzzle. But none of it actually helps, because intelligence isn't made to solve emotional pain. It's great for external problems, not so much for inner peace. And when you try to use your brain to make yourself feel enough, you just go in circles. Because there's no smart answer to the question, am I okay as I am? That's an emotional truth, not a mental equation. And for many bright kids, emotional development is what got skipped. So when the pain gets intense, when the loneliness starts to ache, that's when your ego steps in for damage control. You start thinking, I'm just not like other people. They're not on my level. You tell yourself you don't relate because you're too deep for small talk. It's not because you really believe that. You tell yourself these things because it hurts less than admitting you feel alone. This is what's called defensive arrogance. It's one of the most isolating patterns to fall into. It builds a wall between you and everyone else. Even when you want connection, that wall keeps you from reaching out. Because real connection takes humility. It takes showing up, being seen, being vulnerable. So how do you change this? First things first, and this isn't optional, you have to let go of the smart kid identity. Not because intelligence is bad, but because basing your self-worth on it is dangerous. When your value is tied to how easy things come to you, you'll avoid anything that requires effort. You'll dodge failure, run from challenge, and avoid anything that might prove you're not a genius. You'll even hold yourself back just to protect that image. And eventually, that whole image will fall apart. So instead, build a new identity. One based not on being brilliant, but on being open to growth. Stop asking, what will make me look clever? And start asking, what will help me learn? Drop the pride. Welcome the discomfort. Let yourself try things and not be good at them. Show up, not to impress, but just to be part of something. Yeah, it's awkward. It's uncomfortable. It might feel like you're going backward, but you're not. You're taking the first real step toward healing. Your old identity told you your worth came from being extraordinary. Your new one reminds you that your worth comes from being human. And being human means you get to be unsure. You get to grow slowly. You get to feel lost. You get to mess up. But you've still got to take steps anyway. Not perfect ones. Not brilliant ones. Just real, honest, human steps. So, if you're feeling stuck, numb, or like you're always disconnected, if you've spent most of your life trying to be the smartest person in every room, and now you have no clue how to be anything else, this is your place to start. Let go of the act. Stop trying to be impressive. Just try to be real, because you don't need to be the smartest one in the room to belong there. You just need to be someone who's willing to show up, even when it's tough, even when it's messy, even when it's new. And if you can do that, if you can stop clinging to the version of you that always has to have it together, you might feel something you haven't in a long time: connection. Not because you earned it, not because you proved yourself, but because you finally stepped off the pedestal and back into the world with everyone else. And honestly, that world isn't so bad. In fact, it's the only place where you can truly be known. And more importantly, it's the only place where you can finally feel at home. And now that you're here, standing on solid ground with everyone else, you can finally breathe. Feeling at home isn't about a street address or a title. It's about being at ease in your own skin. It's walking into a room without bracing yourself to perform or prove something. Instead of scanning for a pedestal to climb, you pull up a chair, knowing you have a right to be there. For the first time in a long time, you allow yourself to just be. No pretense, no show. It's not that you stop caring what people think. Of course you still care a little. You're human. But you start caring more about how you feel, and less about managing everyone else's impressions. And a funny thing happens: you begin to relax. The tension you carried starts to unfurl, and people around you sense it and relax too. Conversations flow easier. Laughter comes more naturally. Without even meaning to, you give everyone permission to be just as human and imperfect as you are. You might be surprised by how others respond. When you drop the facade and speak honestly, people lean in. They might be caught off guard if they're used to you always having it together, but that quickly turns into relief and respect. They see someone who doesn't have all the answers and doesn't need to, someone they can relate to. Maybe in a meeting you admit, "I'm stuck on this. Any ideas?" Instead of silently stressing. You might brace for judgment, but chances are someone will jump in with an idea. You listen and learn, and it becomes a team effort instead of a one-person show. You walk away without a gold star, but with something better: camaraderie and the relief of not carrying the weight alone. It's not always easy, of course. After years of playing a role, you might feel a jolt of panic when you let the mask slip. You may catch yourself wanting to jump back into impressive mode at the first sign of uncertainty. That's okay. Habits built over a long time won't vanish overnight. The key is noticing that urge and choosing differently. Every time you choose honesty over image, you build a new kind of confidence. It's quieter and steadier because it's grounded in something real. It won't crumble the next time you stumble, since it's not built on the fragile idea that you never will. And here's the irony. When you stop trying to look smart, you end up learning more. Freed from keeping up the act, you suddenly have space to listen and ask questions. Instead of dodging challenges to protect your image, you start embracing them because you're curious. You've switched from playing defense to growing. Every conversation stops being a performance. It's just a conversation, and a chance to discover something new about someone else or yourself. With this shift, a sense of self-acceptance takes root. You realize you're more than just the smart one. Sure, that's part of you, but it's not all of you. Maybe you're also creative or kind, or maybe you're still figuring out what else you are beyond that old label. And that's okay. You give yourself permission to be a beginner again, to try things just for the joy of it, without the pressure to excel right away. It's humbling, but it's also freeing. As you become more comfortable with your whole self, you'll see your relationships change too. We often feel closest to people when we've seen them at their most real. Think about it. When a friend admits they're struggling, you usually feel more connected, not less. Now you're offering that honesty to others. By saying, "I'm not perfect," or "I need help," you show the people around you that you trust them with the real you. Usually, they'll respond with warmth and maybe share their own struggles too. That's how connection deepens. That pedestal you used to stand on? It was lonely up there. Down on the ground, shoulder to shoulder with others, you discover what you were looking for. True connection and belonging. Belonging doesn't require you to be brilliant or perfect. Just be authentic. The people who matter aren't keeping score. They just want you as you are. You don't earn belonging by outshining everyone. You invite it by standing beside them. That's where the warm, steady glow of friendship lives. Not in the spotlight, but in the shared laughter and honest moments of everyday life. In the end, being the smartest in the room was never the point. You never needed to earn your place among others. You've had it all along, just by being human. The people who matter most will be happiest seeing the real you. And the more you let that true self shine, the more the world starts to feel like home. Home isn't a pedestal or a prize you win by proving yourself. It's the place where you're welcomed just as you are. That sense of belonging and comfort, that's what you've been missing. And now, step by step, you're finding it again. If anything here struck a chord, if you saw yourself in any of this, or felt something you couldn't quite name before, leave a comment. Let me know what landed. You're probably not the only one feeling this way, and sometimes just naming the pattern is the first real step to breaking it. Thanks for hanging out with the Let's Talk Psychology podcast. Take care of yourself, and I'll catch you in the next episode.